This is the Sheff United way, and we are now fully into transfer season. The Blades have started making moves, some really exciting players joining the playing squad, which I think we were all ready to see. But there are lots of other rumours flying around. There's potential incomings, potential outgoings, and that is where we are focusing today. We're looking at one of the rumours that have been flying around at the moment about one quite high-profile potential departure, Jayden Bogle. Now, the internet is a twittering regarding Leeds' potential interest in the United wing-back, and if rumours are to be believed, if reports are to be believed, they have already made a £3 million bid for the 23-year-old. Now, of course, Jayden Bogle only has 12 months left on his deal at Bramall after we triggered an extension clause in his contract this summer to make sure that it was at the very minimum carrying some value this summer or potentially staying with the club for next season. Now, by the same reports that say Leeds have offered £3 million, they also say that United have rejected £3 million. So this is a saga that is still developing. Now, before we get more into some of those details and some of my thoughts, some of our thoughts and feelings about whether or not we should be looking to sell Jayden Bogle this summer, let's look at his career so far. Let's look at what's happened for Jayden Bogle at Bramall before he came to Bramall and why might Leeds be interested in who is fundamentally a quite injury-prone right-back. Now, Jayden Bogle is a 23-year-old. He started his career with Derby County. He played all the way through their youth ranks, and then he made 90 appearances in their first team across just 2 seasons in the Championship. He then joined United in the summer of 2020. Yes, he was another one of those players that we signed in that unbelievably successful period we had where we were signing players and they were all massive successes just after our 9th place finish in the Premier League. Huge successes. Looking at that, just as a slight aside, Max Lowe left earlier this summer. Bogle is currently one of only 3 players who are still with the club after joining us following that season in the Premier League. We have Jayden Bogle, Ryan Brewster and Jack Robinson. Now, that is quite the legacy from coming 9th in the Premier League, but that is just an aside. Jayden Bogle joined Sheffield United, as I say, in 2020 in a joint deal with Max Lowe coming from Derby County. Now, since joining United, Bogle has been in a constant battle. He's always been up against it to try and get a spot in our starting 11 because he's been up against a consistent club legend in George Baldock. But Bogle has, quite surprisingly, I thought, made over 100 appearances now in red and white. He scored 12 goals. He's been part of a memorable FA Cup semi-final run. He has been part of a promotion-winning squad in 2022-23. He's also been part of 2 relegation squads from the Premier League, but I don't think anybody would hold either of those against him. And in fact, during both of those seasons, a lot of people would say he came out of them with quite a bit of credit in terms of his age, but also the way that he was able to put in his own performances during those times, particularly when United haven't been successful going forward. He always remained an attacking threat. I would go as far as to say that last season he was one of the Blades' standout players. And if I remember correctly, on one of his podcasts, Michael Cox actually had Jayden Bogle in his alternative team of the season. Now, that was looking at players in the bottom half, and you could choose one player per team, with one team being able to have 2 choices. He chose Jayden Bogle as the standout right back in the bottom half of the Premier League. So that just shows that even within those difficult seasons, he himself has got quite a lot of accolades. So you can see why teams might be looking for him. Now, last season was the first time that he was able to properly make himself United's first choice. Up until then, he has been massively affected by injuries and, as mentioned, that battle with George Baldock. But last year, he made 36 appearances, 34 of those in the Premier League. And as I say, the results stood out for themselves in terms of him actually being a relatively consistent performer and having a decent season. But that brings us to now, to the present day and the transfer rumours that we are here to discuss. Now, as mentioned at the start, Jayden Bogle has only 12 months left on his contract. And a lot of the reports that we've started to see coming out of the club are that he is unlikely to sign a new deal. And therefore, given the experiences that United have already had with so many players this summer, we've seen so many players departing the club, it's clear that United don't want to do that again. We're really keen that if there's value in our players, that if any of our players are capable of being sold on before they get to the end of their contracts, we are probably more likely than not going to try and take the opportunity to cash in to make sure that we are at least recouping some of that value that we have paid out in recent years in transfers. Now, there have also been, as an aside to this, potential suggestions about a change of shape coming for Sheffield United for the next season. Now, with United lining up in their friendly against York with a 4 at the back system, there is a question mark already starting to form about whether or not Jayden Bogle would be the right man for that system. Now, he has a lot of talent. He, in fact, is almost tailor-made for that wing-back system, and that's why we've been able to see the most of him in terms of his attacking output, in terms of him actually trying to drive United forward. His dribbling has always been something that we can use as an asset, where he's able to get out of tight spots, but also beat a man and put United on the front foot. But that's not something that you're necessarily looking for in a flat back 4 with a right back who is expected to defend first. And I think that is where we start to look at, is the biggest weakness in Jayden Bogle's game, his defensive attributes, and would he actually suit United moving to a back 4 system? And therefore, as with above, we mentioned if he's running out of time on his contract, United might want to cash in. If it's also now moving to a system that doesn't suit Jayden Bogle, maybe United would want to cash in. Maybe if there's a deal on the table and we can replace Bogle with somebody a bit more suited to the 4 at the back system, maybe that's a sensible move for the club to be looking to make. Now, in my opinion, given the financial situation, given what I've just outlined about a potential change of shape, we're still waiting for the takeover. So do we need money? Do we want to start getting our recruitment right? Given the context of his contract and the potential that he won't sign a new one, it's all adding up to me to say that I think it probably is the right idea for United to be looking to make a deal for Jayden Bogle. But to be honest, £3 million is an absolute insult. There have been some suggestions out there in the media that United would look for more like £7 million. Now, that seems a lot more realistic to me, because anything less than that, and I think we'd actually get a lot more value out of having him in our playing squad and using him for the season than we would out of just getting pittance, because £3 million in the grand scheme of things is not going to be life-changing for a football club. So if Leeds can move forward, if they can come up towards the asking price, then definitely for me, there's a deal there to be done. But where does that leave United? So we've covered Bogle, his career so far. We've looked at the transfer and whether or not it makes sense. But what happens to United if Bogle was to leave? Well, to be honest, we would be absolutely desperate for a new right back, because we do have numbers. Now, when you look at the club, our squad's quite unbalanced at the moment, and on paper, we have 4 right backs. Now, if you sell Jayden Bogle, that drops down to 3. You then actually look at the other 3 and you go, well, one's 𝗍𝗿𝗄𝗂𝐴, and he couldn't get in Rotherham's team last year, and they were relegated from the Championship. Not 𝗍𝗿𝗄𝗂𝐴's fault, of course, but clearly he's not a player at the standard where you would want someone to be starting in the Championship. One of the other players is 𝗍𝗿𝗄𝗏. Now, he's another young player come through our academy. A lot of people are excited to think he's got a big future, but he's played hardly any professional football, and he's not ready to step up and perform in the Championship. That then leaves Sam Curtis. Now, I think he's the most exciting of the options that we would have left at the club, but undoubtedly, he's not the finished article. We've signed somebody from the Irish League, and they're not necessarily going to be ready to just immediately step in to a Championship team, and particularly not to a Championship team who have got ideas of potentially competing for promotion. And so United would definitely need to recruit in this area, and we will need to keep an eye on, if Bogle is to leave, who are the rumours, who might be coming in, and who will United sign. There is, of course, the option of somebody like Jamie Shackleton maybe stepping in, playing at right back a little bit, but we want a specialised player for that position. If you're going to be successful at this level, you've got to make sure at the very bare minimum you've got specialised players playing in their positions and capable of doing a very good job. So I would expect to see some recruitment while the youngsters develop, and maybe if we needed someone to fill in from time to time, we may also see a little bit of Jamie Shackleton in that position. Now, of course, that brings us to the close here, but this is a really interesting summer for United. We've already seen things moving. We've seen some really exciting signings come in. We've seen so many players depart the club, including just loads of club legends who we've loved for so long. So this is definitely the summer for keeping your eyes peeled. As we start to preview, we continue to preview. We look at the signings that are coming in. We look at the potential signings. We continue to monitor what's happening with the takeover. We discuss what kind of players we'd want to see United bring in. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be getting really nice and excited about the squad that United might put together to try and win promotion again from the Championship next season. Now, let me know down in the comments whether you A, enjoyed this video, but B, would you sell Jayden Bogle? Do you agree with me that it's the right time if we can get that money back and we don't want to see him leave on a free? Or do you think actually we should try and keep him? Let's give him 6 months and let's try and lock him down on a contract. Let's see if the takeover changes things and we can offer him a bit more money and we can try and lock him down with the club. Let me know your thoughts. I want to know exactly what you'd do with Jayden Bogle, and if he was to leave, who would be your first choice to come to the club and replace him? Thank you so much, as always, for sitting and watching the video. Have a great summer, Blades. Let's hope it's a good one.